Good afternoon, folks. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor of Madison365, with your daily update for Friday. It's Friday. Congratulations on making it to Friday. Again, March 5th. Today we have pretty good COVID news, honestly. Certainly not terrible COVID news. A couple things that are, pretty okay, and a couple things that are actually genuinely good. And we've got some other really good news. A few stories that are in the positive news arena, which we always like. And we'll get to those in a little bit. But first, let's jump into the COVID information, the COVID numbers here. Again, everything is, all the numbers are basically lower, which is always good to see. Part of that is because of lower testing, though, right? So we're seeing this daily number of new tests. These are people who are testing for the first time, or who have and getting a negative or positive for the first time, or people who have tested negative before and are now testing positive for the first time. Okay, of those two categories, there were 3,384 people tested, 350 tested positive, and that's actually not true. I'm going to give you a big grain of salt on this number today. And I think this has been happening for a few days, and it just hasn't been a big enough deal to mention, really, but today it's a little bit more. Actually, there were 480 cases reported today, but there were a handful of counties, about 7 or 8 counties, that are reporting negative numbers of tests today. And again, this has been happening, and Stephanie, my podcast co-host and our data, who does all of our data, has been kind of complaining about this to me for a week or so. Like, what is going on with all these negative numbers? And basically, it seems to me like a bunch of counties are just kind of correcting some data, or the state is correcting data from the counties. Is also possible. So, if you look at the chart today, I'll drop a link to the story in the comments, so you can see. You can click it and take a look. Basically, you have Fond du Lac County reporting negative 39 new cases today. So what that means is there was somebody at some point was going over their data and found that they overcounted their COVID cases by 39 at some point. Not a lot of transparency about this. We've asked about it. We haven't gotten a response. Kenosha County, negative 33. Eau Claire County, negative 28. Juneau County, negative 14. Bayfield, negative 8. Burnett, negative 2. Calumet and Kewanee, also negative 2. Ashland and Forest each negative 1. It's 130 cases that are basically being corrected, that were overreported before. Okay, so what that means is 480 new cases today, 130 taken out that had been reported as positive, but that really weren't, for a net increase of 350 today. Not a huge problem. I don't mean to complain about it. It's always better if there are fewer cases. You know what I mean? It's actually kind of good news that we had 130 people who we thought were positive but weren't, or at least were overreported. And we know that there are people out there who think all of this is fake and everything's overreported. So when we correct the data, that's actually good. We can say, like, we're not overreporting anything, and anything we see that is accidentally overreported, we make a correction. Okay, so that's that. But basically, what that does, though, that 350 reported drives the daily average of new cases all the way down to 479. That's the first time since probably October that the daily new case average is below 500. All right, so that's good. We report 7 fatalities today, which leaves our 7-day average of reported fatalities at at 11, which is the same as it was yesterday. So that's pretty good. That's a good low number. I mean, 11 deaths a day is not great, But remember, that was like over 60 at one point. So, and in fact, it has been going down pretty steadily for a while now. So that's pretty decent news. The other piece of good news, there's two more pieces of good news today. 2.3 is the positive test rate for 7 days. That's the same as it was yesterday. That's still below 4, or still below 3. It is below 4, but it's also below 3, which is kind of the magic number. You talk to epidemiologists, you talk to public health folks. Positive test rate 3% or lower means you pretty much have it under control. You get much over 3%, you might have to think about restrictions, being clamped down again, that kind of stuff. So the fact that we're keeping it under 3 is great. And the fact that it went up slightly a couple of days ago and then back down, that also makes me feel pretty good. Now, the other big piece of good news today is we have more than 1 million people have gotten one dose of vaccine in Wisconsin. And even more fun, more people have gotten vaccinated that have tested positive for coronavirus. And we know there are we have the total number of cases ever in Wisconsin is 566,158. And we know there are a lot more than that. There might be as many as 500,000 more than that. There are some who speculate that only half of coronavirus cases ever actually tested positive, because either they were asymptomatic or it was just so mild that, or people got it, knew they got it, and just didn't feel like going to get tested. But there's 566,158 that we know about. And now we have 572,501 people who've gotten fully vaccinated, which is great. That is really unequivocally good news. 9.8% of the population is now fully vaccinated. And even better news than that is 24,000 people got vaccinated in just the past day. Yesterday, that number was 23,000. So not only are we getting a lot of people vaccinated every day, the number of people getting vaccinated every day is going up. We're accelerating our vaccinations, which is great, which means, when we first started, we were doing about 5,000 a day. And, at that rate, it would have taken the better part of 2 years to get everybody vaccinated. So the fact that we're accelerating, we're getting faster at this, and more people every day are getting it, then that we might actually be able to get done, by the end of the summer. Now we are aware that President Biden said yesterday, I think, or maybe the day before, that he anticipates, the federal government anticipates, having enough vaccine produced by the end of May to vaccinate everyone in the United States, which is great. Which then having it in federal stockpiles is one thing. Distributing it, getting people to get appointments, getting it to the rural areas, getting it to the inner cities, getting it to the people is another matter entirely. Which is why somebody asked me yesterday, do you think we'll have everybody vaccinated by the end of May? No, that was never what was even talked about. I think there was some reporting on this that was a little bit misleading or a little bit oversimplified, maybe. But that it's we're going to go well into July, probably August, maybe, before we actually get doses to everyone that wants one or needs one, which is frankly okay, right? Because once we get 40-50% of people vaccinated, that's not quite herd immunity level yet. But if we get 50% of people vaccinated and our positive test rates are still below 3%, it means there's just not a lot of virus going to be spreading around. So we'll be able to start to talk about getting back to whatever normal used to be, right? So vaccine numbers are really good. Racial disparities remain, a problem. It's just there's no way around that. We saw earlier in the summer, in the spring. We saw, deep and vast racial disparities in who was getting infected, meaning Black and brown people were far more likely to get infected and far more likely to die. And now we're seeing Black and brown people much less likely to be vaccinated right now. So there are intentional efforts underway to take care of that. It continues to be an issue. So, we'll keep an eye on that. Loyal listener Corey is getting vaccinated tonight. Congratulations, good job. I hear tell that journalists are like not too far away, so I might tell you about my experience pretty soon, I hope. But again, I'm white and privileged and relatively young and healthy, and I have the ability to pretty much stay home if I want to, so I will not mind at all if I have to wait a little while. That said, anybody who can get a shot should, because you getting your vaccination helps me. It's a communal thing. It's a societal thing. It's not just for you. So I don't think people should try to jump the line. I don't think people should scam anybody the way some people are. There are allegations of all sorts of scams and people pretending to be first responders and people pretending to be, and going into disadvantaged neighborhoods to get their own vaccine. I don't think that's appropriate or right. That said, anybody who gets vaccinated is good for all of us. And I think if we do continue to get the numbers of vaccines that we were talking about, like it won't matter at some point. Like we'll just be getting everybody done pretty soon. Within another month or two, it'll just be like, whoever you are, make your appointment. Right? That's the hope anyway. And the hope is that we can keep the positive test rate below 3 while that process happens. Okay. I'm nervous. I'm very optimistic, but I'm nervous that we're going to relax, let our guard down and relax. And be like, okay, everything's fine now. We can go and we can have soccer and we can go to the bar and do the things. That's what we did last year in June when the numbers were where they are now and things just kind of went haywire. We didn't have vaccine then. So I'm hoping that's the sort of the difference. But in the meantime, I urge everyone to stay vigilant. Keep your mask on. Don't go to the store unless you have to. That kind of stuff. Okay, so that's enough preaching from me. We're going to take a short pause. And I have some really fun news stories for you on the other side of the break. Stay right there. Don't go away. And we're back, and I'm sure that it was almost exactly a year ago. It'll be a year ago next week, Thursday, something like that. Thursday, I'm sorry. Next week, Thursday, the 11th, is the day the NBA canceled the season last year. Shortly thereafter, Major League Baseball cut off spring training and shortened their season. The NFL Combine got canceled. All sorts of stuff like that just kind of fell apart last year. And as a consequence, Under Armour ended up with a whole lot of stuff left over. So these are shoes, Under Armour shoes that are like $125, and gloves that are like $50, like wide receiver gloves, running back gloves. Football, baseball, and soccer cleats that Under Armour had over $1 million of them sitting around they had to get rid of. So they donated them to the Boys and Girls Club of America. Boys and Girls Club of America looked at each other and said, who can get rid of these really fast? Who can distribute these really efficiently? Oh, I know, Michael Johnson, the Boys and Girls Club of Dane County. So he hired some guys from the Black Men's Coalition of Dane County, and he paid them to drive to Atlanta to pick these things up. And they rented 2 big trucks. They had to put them up in a hotel. and they're bringing them back. They're on their way back. They might be back here already, actually. But they're going to hold. They got the Big Top Sports, the owners of the Mallards and the Forward Madison Football Club. They also manage Maurice Stevens Field. So they got Maurice Stevens Field for free for a couple of days. They're going to have Gilbert Brown from the formerly of the Green Bay Packers come down and do like football clinics, football camps, and give away some shoes to some kids that wouldn't be able to afford them otherwise, and who they're going to give some to the Southside Raiders, some to some of the local soccer clubs, and football teams and stuff, and local community centers, stuff like that. Because kids are getting them back to sports, and not everybody can afford the nice cleats. So they're going to have literally $1 million worth of shoes to give away. Now, what you can do to help is throw a few dollars at this effort, because the Boys and Girls Club had, this is kind of a last minute thing. So the Boys and Girls Club had to put up about $10,000 for those guys to drive down there, to rent the trucks, to do the camps and all that stuff. So if you have a few dollars, and you can go to BGCDC, Boys and Girls Club of Dane County, bgcdc.org/donate. Give them $10, $20. That'll add up pretty quickly. And as Michael told me last night, a $10,000 investment from the community, get $1 million worth of stuff for kids. So I'd encourage you to. The story's on Madison365.org. You can see it there. There's a link there if you want to throw a few dollars into this effort. It should be. It's I don't know. It's just a good story. I mentioned Lori Carter yesterday. I got to talk to her, and I have a little more information about this. She is the new president of Lawrence University in Appleton, 147-year-old institution. She's the first Black president, first person who's not white, who's president of any kind. She was most recently the first Black president at Shippensburg University. She was the first Black administrator at Eastern Kentucky, and she was the first Black administrator at the Juilliard School, something like 30 years ago. So this is her first. And we talked a lot about her, trying to connect with the community in Appleton. The Lawrence University Conservatory is really well known, has national reputation. So when she was at Juilliard, she knew about Lawrence. So she's taking this as a great opportunity, and it's not always easy to get a really high power, very talented leader like this to come to Wisconsin. It frankly is difficult to get some Black people of this caliber, or of any caliber. Black people moving to Wisconsin sometimes is difficult to do, to recruit people like that. So it's good on Lawrence, good on her. The search committee was led by Corey Nettles, who Wisconsin people know. He's a Lawrence alum, but he's in Milwaukee now. But he was the Commerce Secretary under Jim Doyle. He's been on a bunch of events for us. So we'll be eagerly awaiting and watching what happens at Lawrence under Dr. Carter's leadership. Another fun story today, Maurice Cheeks, former president of the Common Council in Madison. He ran for mayor a couple years ago. And we haven't heard from him in a while since that mayoral race. So he's been back running his tech business, and now he's baking. Like a lot of people, a year ago or so, he took up sourdough, like a lot of people did. Never had done anything creative like that before, but tried it out. And then over the summer, there was some bakers across the country, amateur hobby bakers, did this thing called Bakers Against Racism. And they did basically a bake sale fundraiser. And it took off. And he's started to do this now, where he's got this newsletter. He's got his, people from his campaign and stuff. And you can sign up, and he's selling bread for causes. And this past, the Black Cultural Center was for February, Second Harvest Food Bank in January. And so it's just a fun story of somebody trying to do something new, making the most out of this whole pandemic situation. That Malik Anderson did that story, did a really nice job for us. Also today, we broke this news that Gina Stevens, who you might have heard on Black Oxygen, you hear about her. She is the founder of Rock County Jumpstart down in Beloit. It was an organization that supports and encourages Black business owners down in Rock County. She has been appointed to the Rock County Board of Supervisors. The former chair, Cara Purviance, resigned in December, and there was an appointment process to replace her to fill out her term, which goes until April of next year, April 2022, at which time Gina could run for a full term if she wants to. She did tell me that she was thinking about running for office anyway. She's kind of been stepping into leadership roles, over the past 10 years. She's lived in Beloit for 25 years, ever since she got out of the Navy. She went to Beloit College after the Navy and just stayed in Beloit, and has become a real leader there, and was thinking about running for office anyway, maybe in 2 or 3 years from now. And saw this opportunity to try it out, to try out some public service, and had a lot to say about why it's important for Black folks to be at the table. Rock County, the size of the county board is actually kind of similar to Dane County, 29 supervisors, only 2 of them were Black. So she thought, this was an opportunity. So she took it. This story is right there on Madison365.org right now. This wasn't even announced really yet. We broke the story. She reached out to us the other day, and then today it became public when they posted the agenda for next week's meeting. And she was appointed by this committee, but the full board has to vote on it, to make it official, and then she'll be sworn in, and then she'll jump right in. So that you heard that exclusively on Madison 365 earlier today. Also today, finally, we have I talked with these guys about the upcoming Men's Leadership Summit, which is coming up April 14th and 15th. This is coming out of our annual event that we've done for the last 3 years called the Wisconsin Leadership Summit. We learned at this past one, in the 2020 Wisconsin Leadership Summit, that there was some desire to do something specific for men and for women of color. So the Men's Leadership Summit is April 14th, 15th. The Women's Leadership Summit is coming up in June. And then the full flagship Wisconsin Leadership Summit will happen then in October. But these guys are all, you may recognize some of these guys, some of these names: Winslow Sargent, Errol Davis, Shelton Good, and Zach Ellis. All these guys have connections to Wisconsin, but have since left. And they've all agreed to come back to be part of the summit. Come back virtually, of course. And so I got, Errol Davis is former CEO of Airline Energy. Shelton Good was the diversity inclusion guy at Oshkosh Corp. Zach and Winslow both went to graduate school here and lived here for a period of time. Winslow is on the board of directors at Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation, which is a massive IP operation, intellectual property operation, lots of money there. And they all talked about why this summit is important, why they agree to be a part of it, what they hope people get out of it. So I would definitely check that out if you're thinking about it and aren't sure. It's the stories there on Madison365.org. These guys have some really powerful things to say about what can happen when people of color get together and when white people sign up to listen and learn. So they would definitely encourage you to attend that. That is the news for today. I appreciate your attention. I appreciate your support. Hit the share button. Spread the word. Evangelize for real, independent community news and journalism. I started to say news and then changed it to journalism, and I almost said journalism. It's happening when you talk too much in a day. Local, independent, nonprofit news is a really important thing. It just is. So I hope you'll help us spread the word about it. And I'll also let you know, I'll be back Monday, and we have a really, really, really exciting announcement on Monday that I can't quite tease yet, but I'm teasing it now. I can't say it yet. I can tease it. So tune in Monday morning, the big announcement, and we'll talk about it more on the update on Monday. Until then, sounds like it is going to be a very beautiful weekend. So get out and enjoy it, and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you again Monday.
This is 365 Media.